that this video finds you healthy, safe. I'm going to do a lesson that's on section 2.8. It's a little bit harder lesson. There's a YouTube video that I've linked on Blackboard that I want you to watch about halfway through this. That's a really good video. I want you to just watch it the first 7 minutes and 26 seconds. Okay? So 7 minutes and 26 seconds after the ads. Okay? And he does a really nice job kind of clearing up and explaining some of the material that we're trying to emphasize. So concentrate on the P&L. It's due tomorrow night at midnight on Tuesday. This is some stuff that especially this question was something similar that's on the final, absolute change and relative change. Take a minute and read about minimum wage and what inflation and deflation are, and that will give you some lead into what this section is on. Okay, so I would take a pause right now and try the P&L, call people in your group, do a remind message to me, and we can do a Zoom room if you want. But take the time to actually contact your group and do that together if you can, and either do it online, which I recommend you do. It's really short. It's only 3 questions, or take some pictures and send it to me. All right, so you guys have this in your notes. This is section 2.8. I would pause the video and read what they, some of the material about minimum wage, some of the material about what's called an index number, and that's what we're going to be talking about for this, pretty much this whole lesson. So take a pause. This is where I'd have someone in the class read the paragraphs, and then we'll go ahead and do the first question. All right, so these few questions are going to help us understand what an index number is. And an index number is a way to compare changes, relative changes or differences in a data set. And they're going to tell you how to make the index number. So obviously the price of a Big Mac was cheaper in 1968 than if we can compare it to the price of the Big Mac in 1992. So now we're going to do some comparisons of prices back in 1992. So if you look carefully at the problem, it says compare the prices by finding the ratio of the 1968 price to the 1992 price. So we know a ratio is a fraction. Right? We know ratio is a fraction. We're going to put the small number on the top, so we're dealing with the percentage. The 1968 is going to go on the top. So if we look back, it cost 49 cents for a Big Mac in 1968. And in 1992, it was $2.19. So pull out your calculator. Now remember, the calculator gives you the decimal, and they want express the ratio as a percent, right? So the calculator gives you the decimal, and you've got to multiply it by 100 to get the percent. So the answer is about 22.4%, or I don't, they tell you what to round it. Well, we can call it 22% if we wanted. So let's think about this then. The 1968 cost of a Big Mac is 22.4% of the cost in 1992. Okay? So a ratio is a fraction. They wanted you to express it as a percent, so when you do that on your calculator, you've got to multiply it by 100. Right? And so that kind of should make sense, right? That the price was cheaper, so the old price was a percent of the new ones. All right, now this is a little bit different. They said find, we want to compare the price from 1992 to 2014. And they want you to do it as a ratio. But now the bigger number is going to go on the top. All right? So there's two ways we're going to look at this. So they said compare the 2014 price, which was $4.62. Make a ratio of that to the 1992 price. Oops, I just started right 1992. The price in 1992 was $2.19. All right, so there's two ways we're going to look at this. Now the big number's on the top and the little number's on the bottom. So my calculator gives me this. I'll round it to 2 decimals. So I know there's two ways. Oh, geez Louise, you guys can't even see what I'm writing. Here we go. It's just like we're in class. So I put on the top the price of the Big Mac, because I'm not editing this. We're just moving forward. And then on the bottom is the price of the 1992. I'll give you time to write that down. And this is what my calculator gave me. Now, when we did in the past big over little, it should make sense then that the 2014 price is a little over 2 times bigger than the 1992 price. That's one way we could say it, right? But they wanted it as a percent, so I'm going to write it two ways. So this, we could say, is the 2014 cost is 2.11 times larger than the 1992 cost. If we convert it to a percent, right, and multiply that by 100, it's 211%. So that means that the price of the Big Mac in 2014 is 211% of that. So it's over 100%, right? Because if it was $202.19, it would be 100%. But since it's more than that, the percent's going to be over 100. So 211% means it's double. It's over double the price. All right, so now let's look at this. We're going to do this together, and then I want you to watch a video on what's called the price index. All right? Now, when you watch the video, the gentleman is always going to talk about a base year. Okay? So the video, really, click on the link and watch the first 7 minutes and 26 seconds because he explains it beautifully. So in the video, he's going to talk about a base year. And the base year is the year that you're going to compare prices to. So what we just did in problem A and problem B, so we compared 1968 price to 1992, and then we compared the 2014 price to 1992. Isn't that what we did? So the year that you're comparing these prices to is, he calls this the base year. Okay? And the base year is the year that you can compare other values to. Okay. So we compare other prices to that base year. All right. If you look at the video, the index number is always 100 for the base year. So basically, I think of that 100, you can think of it as $100, you can think about it as $1, or you can think about it as 100 cents. Okay? So with this 100, we're going to talk about, okay, if this is $1, then what could you buy for $1? How much would the same thing cost in 1968? So let's just pretend a Hershey bar, I know it didn't cost $1 then, but let's just pretend a Hershey bar cost $1 in 1992. Well, how much would it have cost in 1968? And so this is where the percentages come in. So we figured out when we took the 49 cents that was in 1968 to the $2.19 in 1992 was 22%. So that number without your percent is called the index number. And this is how we're going to think about it. So if you put this into your calculator, you got the 0.22, right, over 1, and then we multiplied it by 100 to get the 22%. But I want to look at this fraction right now. Okay? So this is the money in 1968, and this, you see, we made it into a unit fraction. This is the money in 1992. So if something cost $1 in 1998, or I'm sorry, in 1992, it would have cost 22 cents in 1968. Do you see that? So we're going to use this and talk about this. So this is the amount of money in 1968. This is for the exact same product, we'd spend this amount of money in 1992. Now, you could look at it like this, or if you want to multiply top and bottom by 100, this is where you'd get the 22 over 100. So something that cost $100 in 1992 is going to cost $22 in 1968. So they're just different ways to interpret this ratio. Same with this guy. So we compared the Big Mac, and we did $4.62 in 2014 over the $2.19. So when you put that in your calculator, you got 2.11 over 1. So this is money, this is money. So what cost $1 in 1992 is now going to cost $2.11 in 2014. You can multiply top and bottom by 100 if you want to compare it to 100. So this is what's called an index number is. So it's comparing prices for various years. You can look at it like this, but most people don't like the decimals, so they'll maybe make it as a unit fraction, or again without the decimals, they'll multiply top and bottom by 100 and get this value. And this is the value we're going to start reading off of our chart. All right? So stop the video and watch the YouTube link that I put on Blackboard. It's just 7 minutes and 26 seconds. This is what we'd watch in class. And he does a really nice job talking about the base year. He's very entertaining, and he'll explain this even more. Like, this is all we get out of our book, and it's good, but I liked what he did on his video. So turn this off, watch his link, and then come back. All right. So he talks about this in his video, that we're not just going to talk about a Big Mac like what we did in this section. We're going to talk about what's called a basket of goods. And this basket of goods is deals with what's called a CPI. And so it's an index like this. This was an index for the Big Mac price, but what's called the Consumer Price Index is talking about a basket of goods that we spend money on. Food, education, clothes, vacations, gas, transportation, medical. It's like stuff that we as consumers spend money on. And so we're going to take that basket of goods and talk about the cost of that compared to various years. And so that's what the gentleman on the video was talking about. So, you know how we had to know IRS and WHO, APR. Here's your next one, CPI. It's called Consumer Price Index. We did a Big Mac price index up here, and now we're going to look at Consumer Price Index. Okay? So, this chart, and you can look up these charts online. They're posted online. Here is a Consumer Price Index for various years. So what the gentleman talked about, the very first thing you need to do is identify the base year. And the base year is always the year that's closest to a 100. So look at the chart. I'd have you guys do this as a group. Look at the chart and see which one is the closest to 100. Okay, look at it hard. There's a bunch in the 90s, but there's one that's in the 90s that's the closest to 100, and that's this base year right here. So 1983 is what is called our base year. So basically, I'm going to call that $1, right? That's really close to 100, or $100, or sometimes you'll hear me just say it's 100 pennies or $1, however you, whatever units you want. So it says, how does the 2014 dollar compare to the 1983 dollar? Okay, well, let's look. So what cost $1 in 1983 for the exact same product is going to cost $2.36 in 2014. You could also say what cost $100 in 1983 cost $236 in 2014. It all depends on like the units that you want to think about. We okay with that? All right, so now do the same thing for 1949. So find 1949, find out what the index was, and whatever cost $1 in 1983 is going to cost that much in 1949. So here's 1949. Okay, I'll circle this one too. You ready? So you can either think about it in dollars or pennies. So in 1990, so what cost, hold on, $1 in 1983, or if you'd rather think about it as $100 in 1983, is going to cost 23 cents. Like 0.238, that's really 23 or 24 cents in 1949. Or $23.80 in 1949. Does that make sense? And you can do this for any of these year values, right? So if I wanted to know what cost me $1 in 1983 in 2003, it's going to cost $1.84, or $100 versus $184. So it should make sense, like that, because of inflation, that the prices are going to go up after 1983, the base year, and then prices are going to go lower for years that are below 1983. So I'm hoping that makes sense. All right. These are the kind of harder questions. All right. I'm not going to deny it. They're a little tricky. And we're going to use what our knowledge of proportions. Okay? Proportions. So it says, who has more purchasing power? And we're going to do a proportion as our quantitative information. Provide quantitative information to support your answer. All right, so we're going to set up proportions to play with this. So let's see. So in the year 1938, let's look up on your chart to find out the index number. Okay, so in 1938, let's look up the index number. What did you guys get? All right, so in 1938, we're right up here. And we're going to compare this to 2014. Okay? So I'm going to star these. So we're looking at that number, year versus this year. So let's just play with it a little bit, see if we can understand what's going on. So if we want to make a little proportion out, or a ratio out of this, just so we can understand, we have $14.10 in 1938